Today we're going to be installing the X-Shut onto the Cookie G4. The X-Shut is an awesome system that can be mounted on virtually any surface using the X-Shut base and the X-Shut cross. Once installed on any surface, you can easily use the cross to transfer whatever you're mounting from one surface to the next. There are three components to the X-Shut mount: the base, the integration kit, and the cross. The tools we're going to need to install the X-Shut include a masonry hole saw, a Torx screwdriver, a rubber hammer, a power drill, gaffer's tape, and sandpaper. Now before we install anything on the G4, we're going to want to remove the liner as well as the piece of impact foam where we're going to install the mount. Before you install the X-Shut mount onto your Cookie G4, you're going to want to find the reference point. From this point forward in the video, it's good to have an assistant, trusty Scott over here, to help you throughout this process. So the G4 has some built-in reference points to help you find that center point. The first one is the visor here. It runs a straight line right across the top. You open it all the way. That's a pretty good point to mark for installation of the X-Shut. So what we're going to do is take a piece of gaffer's tape. I'm going to have my assistant Scott hold the helmet for me, and we're going to run a piece of tape right along the edge of the visor all the way down from side to side of the helmet. Cool. So now we have the center point going that way. The second thing we're going to want to do is the center point going this way. So we're going to close the visor. The two reference points to find the center point here are right here and right here. So we're going to run a piece of tape from one end of the helmet to the other. Thank you, sir. So start in the back here, line that up. Cool. And then run it all the way around, straight down to those two center points. So at this point, you want to verify that you've run the piece of tape from this reference point back here all the way to the front on this reference point right here. And then what you should end up with is a nice center point on the top of your helmet. The last thing we're going to do is to verify this, is take a light, and you can actually shine this up through the bottom of the helmet, and that'll help you visually inspect to make sure it's centered within the removable part of the impact foam. So Scott, if you don't mind, take that, and we're gonna stick that in there. Cool. So now we can see there. The last thing you're gonna wanna do before you start drilling is to take your integration kit and kind of center it right on that center point and make sure it's not over the side of the impact foam. And then we're good to get going. Now that we found our center point using the gaffer's tape, we can start drilling our pilot hole. It's a good idea to mark the center of that gaffer's tape where the two pieces meet before you start drilling your pilot hole. This is also a good time to use an assistant to make sure the helmet's not shifting around while you're drilling. So Scott, go ahead and hold that helmet for me. And then we're going to slowly start drilling right on this center point through the gaffer's tape. Hold it steady so it doesn't start shifting around on you. Boom. There we go. So now we've drilled out our pilot hole. We can remove the gaffer's tape and start drilling the big hole. So now we're going to use the masonry hole saw to drill out the large hole in the top of the G4. It's important to note that using this drill can create a lot of excess dust, so it's really important to wear safety goggles. Another pro tip is to tape a trash bag on the inside liner of the helmet here to kind of help catch all that dust. Once you're done, you can also use some compressed air to kind of blow it all away. So, also good to have another set of hands for this process to not only hold the helmet steady, but also keep an eye and make sure I'm drilling straight down through the helmet. So Scott, if you could hold on here. Now that we've drilled out the large hole in the G4, we're going to want to sand out the edges to make a nice, clean, smooth surface before we install the integration kit into the G4. We're also going to want to make sure to pay particular close attention to the back part of the hole in order to smooth out the surface so we don't put excess wear on the X-Shut base cord when we're taking on and off our camera. The X-Shut integration kit has two components, a top part and a bottom part. For the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to be using a piece of plexiglass to show how the two components fit together. Important thing to note about the bottom part of the integration kit is there's a rubber gasket going around the outside of it. Depending on the thickness of the shell or surface you're going to be mounting it on, you might have to shave off a little bit of the top layer of the gasket in order to fit it together properly. Another thing to note is that the bottom part of the integration kit does not go through the hole that you've drilled. It sits on the outside of it. And then when you put the two components together, you're going to sandwich the gasket tighter and tighter together using the screws provided. Now that we removed some of the excess from the gasket part of the bottom of the integration kit, we want to put the top part of the integration kit through the hole. When we do this, we're going to notice that there's a little bit of gap between the shell of the helmet and the top plate of the integration kit. So we want to visually inspect that and see how much of a gap there is. And then we want to remove the top part of the integration kit and use our rubber hammer to kind of bash down the sides a little bit to better match the contour of the shell of your helmet. Once you've hammered the top part of the integration kit to match the contour of your helmet, you're going to want to take the X-Shut base and put it onto the top part of the integration kit. The first step is to take the two pieces of line, thread them through the back part right here, and pull it through, making sure that the holes line up properly. Then you're going to want to stick the string through the top of the helmet and push the top part of the integration plate flat down against the helmet, making sure that it's lined up properly through the back and lined up on the center point of the helmet. Now that we've installed the top part of the integration kit, along with the X-Shut base, we can install the bottom part of the integration kit. Before we do so, make sure that all the holes are lined up between the X-Shut base and the top of the integration kit, and the pull string is lined up out the back towards the back of the G4 helmet. Now that we've installed the integration kit for the X-Shut mount, as well as the X-Shut base, we're going to want to drill a hole about 1 inch back from the mount in order to operate the release mechanism. We're going to use the same method we used for finding the center point of the helmet, using a piece of gaffer's tape. So we're going to put the piece of gaffer's tape right on the edge, right where we can see the thread popping out on the X-Shut base. And then we're going to line it straight back like that, along the center reference point of the G4 discussed earlier. From there, measure 1 inch to 1.5 inches and drill a hole. Once you've drilled the hole in the back, you can thread through the releasing mechanism for the X-shut base. From there, you're going to want to put on the X-shut cross and check to make sure your release mechanism works properly. Good to go. A couple things to note before reinstalling the liner on the G4 or jumping your new setup. It's a good idea to give the integration kit about 24 hours to settle. That way you can re-tighten in the screws a bit more to ensure a nice snug fit with the top of your helmet. Now the cool thing about the X-shut mount is anywhere where the X-shut base is installed, you can quickly transfer your camera from one surface to the next. So if I'm a tandem instructor, for instance, and I'm out there doing a fun jump in my G4, and then I need to go quickly do a hand cam, I can quickly and efficiently take the GoPro off of my G4 and put it on my hand cam mount. I'm ready to go, just like that.